Hi guys, welcome to our channel. After escaping the maze, gliders now face challenges on the open roads of a desolate landscape full of unimaginable obstacles. Things don't turn out how the kids think. Even with the new adventure, they face zombies. Check the title of the movie in the description. As the night falls, many individuals clad in masks gather at a railway station. Amidst the chaos, a mother mournfully says she will always love her son Thomas and leads him to the front of the line. The security detail then takes the child and leads him away. Ava Page abducts Thomas and the other kids from this point on, and the tests start. Thomas is startled awake in the maze elevator just before he is about to reach the top when he hears Minho yelling at him. The armed soldiers tell him to flee as they fire at the zombie-like monsters named Crank. While Thomas and his group escape unscathed, the zombies push the security forces back. After reaching a safe place, Jansen, the guy in charge of this enormous facility, is introduced to the team, which he calls a sanctuary. He accompanies them on their route and explains that while he doesn't have a permanent residence, he does have a safe haven away from the Scorch and Ava's prying eyes. After the team's first shower since entering the maze, they get a medical assessment. Dr. Crawford, in charge of the facility, approaches Teresa and draws the curtains shut. Wicked is Ava's nickname, so Jansen wants to hear Thomas's side of the Wicked controversy. He takes him into an interrogation room and questions him about what he recalls. Truthfully recounting his time working for them, he explains how he somehow found himself trapped in the maze. After reviewing the responses, Jansen gives Thomas and his crew the go-ahead to go to the mess hall. On that level, they also come across those who have triumphed over the maze. Eris has been in the refuge for over a week, making him the longest-term resident. Marching to the room's middle, Jansen declares that some individuals will be taken to the safe haven. Those that are selected applaud as he starts to announce their names. He concludes his list by saying he would take more if he could, but it is impossible. Thomas sees Teresa strolling by as the chosen few go for the refuge. He intends to pass through the entrance, but the guards prevent him. After entering their residence, they seem satisfied with the situation. However, Thomas is still worried about Teresa and discusses this issue with Newt. In the middle of the night, Thomas, who is still not asleep, notices voices and looks under the bed. He sees Eris, who asks him to follow him in the air sections. After crawling through, Eris points out a section where he can keep an eye on things. They look over and see individuals being escorted into a secure room while they lie still on beds. Eris says they do it nightly and have never seen anyone leave. He has a sneaking suspicion that something fishy is happening here. Thomas tells Newt about what he observed the night before and expresses his worries when Jansen reveals the names the next day. Thomas tries to enter that room but is stopped by the guard, and his insistence leads to a fight. At this moment, Jansen shows up and ends the fight by sending them to their residence. After Thomas locked them in the room, he reveals that he stole the guard's card. Even though his friends are angry about his new assignment, he takes Eris, and they go to the air section foe to enter the security room. As he steps inside, he notices enormous tubes housing animals resembling krill. They see people dangling from the ceiling with various tubes and tanks attached. It seems as if every machine is gathering a blue material. A door opens behind them as Eris verifies that these prisoners are their fellow runners in the maze. Suddenly, Johnson and a doctor enter and intend to communicate with their superiors. It turns out that Ava is still alive, informs Jansen that she would like to come earlier than anticipated as they watch from behind the pillars. Although Johnson confirms that everything is going well, Ava says it's not fast enough, so she asks him to immediately prepare the kids for exploitation. Her concern is mainly with a rebel group called the Right Arm because they recently seriously damaged 2 parts of her facility. So Johnson is allowed to try the new tests on the new group. Thomas and his friends. Hearing this news, Thomas immediately returns to the residence and tells the group they should leave now. At this moment, Johnson goes to the group with injectable drugs. While locking the door, Thomas informs his friends that the Wicked is still alive and not dead. When Johnson tries to open the door, he encounters a barrier. He soon realizes that they have escaped. He orders the center to go into lockdown immediately. With Eris separated from the group, they take Dr. Crawford hostage along the way to use her to find Teresa. Johnson sees them through security cameras, and an armed agent immediately stops them. Minho, however, knocks him out bravely and takes his gun, and they move towards the medical laboratory. Thomas wakes Teresa up without wasting time. At the same time, the agents may enter at any moment, and he decides to open the way by breaking the window. They quickly cross the corridor and suddenly see Johnson and his agents in front of them. As he approaches them, he warns Thomas about the cranks in the outside world and tries to convince him to surrender. While Minho's attempt to open the door is unsuccessful, Eris and Winston suddenly come to their aid and open the door. The emergency doors of the building are lowered, and Thomas, who is trying to keep the agents away, finally manages to pass through the door. With Eris destroying its locking system, Johnson and his men get stuck behind the door, and Thomas and his group manage to get out of the facility safely. However, the search for them continues until the group finds an abandoned hiding place. Teresa is still confused and doesn't know what happened, so Thomas explains everything he knows. Thomas is sure that the Wicked is looking for something in their blood, and in a new plan, their goal is to find the Right Arm rebel group, who hid in the mountains. Then, by discovering the footprints, it becomes clear that this abandoned building used to be a residence of people, so the group separated to find everything they needed. Tomas notices something strange inside the cage, and Minho simultaneously activates the electricity. The light causes the cranks to wake up and find them. The number of zombies increases so much that they run away quickly and try to warn their friends about the presence of zombies by shouting loudly. The group continues to run with all their might until they enter a corridor through a door. In this case, one of the kids, named Winston, is seriously injured. Still, they finally hide and shelter in a destroyed and silent place. The following day, Thomas is the first to wake up, and while Winston is not feeling well, they begin their journey. Thomas hears something as they continue through the burnt city and gaze at the surrounding scenery. They quickly take cover as a large ship passes by, clearly looking for them. After that, upon reaching a big sand dune, Thomas points out that they must go to those distant mountains. Suddenly, Winston collapses. The group does not leave Winston alone. They move him along the way. At one stop, Teresa informs Thomas that they put something in her neck, and her memories are coming back. She admits they were working for Ava because they wanted to fix everything and suggests they should return, which shocks Thomas. At this time, the kids announce that Winston is not well and is out of control. It seems that the infection has taken over his whole body, and he doesn't want to become one of them, so he asks his friends to kill him before he ultimately turns into a zombie. Before leaving, Newt gives him a gun, and his friends say goodbye to him individually. Winston's last request to Thomas is to take care of them. Just as they're about to go, the sound of gunfire stops them in their tracks. They camp at night to rest. As they grieve the passing of their beloved companion, they sit hushedly around it. The next day, they cross the scorched empty land to chase the mountains. Their water supply is diminishing, and the weather is intolerable. Once again, they journey until nightfall, but Thomas sees lights in the distance as he sleeps, waking up the rest of the group. However, they must flee as a tremendous storm is closing in on them. They are surrounded by massive storm clouds as the lightning strikes terrifyingly. Near the lights, lightning falls to the ground beside Thomas and Minho. As the others assist in bringing Minho inside, Thomas becomes more disoriented. Fortunately, Minho wakes up and makes everyone happy that he is alive. As Teresa turns back, a captured crank is thrown at her, and moments later, it becomes clear that they are outnumbered. A girl named Brenda appears and it turns out that the captured cranks are some kind of defense system, then she asks them to follow her. As they walk, Brenda announces that the group leader wants to meet them and takes them to him. Jorge, the base commander, approaches them and asks what they want. As for Jorge's description of them as ghosts, Thomas clarifies that they are searching for the right arm. They scan the chip on their necks when the group remains silent in response to the second question about where they came from. Jorge informs them that they have been tagged and hail from Wicked. He binds them upside down after realizing their value. He reveals his guys want to sell them back to Wicked during a second private meeting, but he proposes a bargain in exchange for details regarding the right arm. The discussion abruptly stops when Thomas reveals they are in the mountains, as one of Jorge's men enters the room. After that, Jorge asks Brenda that they should leave immediately, and at the same time, an outside guard in the building is eliminated by the attackers. The kids succeed in rescuing Teresa, and then some Wicked troops show up and sneak inside. As the soldiers start their stealth attack, a helicopter flies in, and Johnson loudly announces that they are surrounded by Wicked forces, wants to hand over the kids to them. Teresa frees the others as everyone freaks out. Jorge then instructs Brenda to gather the kids while he plays the music he loves. But the stranger tells Jansen where the kids are, and they are being held at gunpoint. The insane guy is about to shoot Thomas when Brenda shoots him in the back. Jorge plans to get them out of our building, but he points out that they owe him. Then, they go to that side of the building one by one through the unique emergency system designed by Jorge to escape. Brenda remembers that she forgot something and goes to get it, and Thomas doesn't leave her alone. On the other hand, Johnson notices the group's escape and sees them. The two are trapped inside with the wicked agents, a major problem. To avoid being shot or killed, they arrange themselves so that the opponent can't shoot them, and the whole complex bursts into flames as soon as the song ends. They escape from an elevator shaft in time, and the only way out is through the sewer tunnels contaminated with cranks. As they stealthily navigate the tunnels, Thomas discovers an escape. At the same time, Brenda takes a different path, where she stumbles across a decaying swarm of cranks. They seem lifeless, and suddenly, a rat appears out of nowhere. When one of the dead cranks snatches it, the others wake up. They encounter an onslaught of many cranks in a chasm while escaping the nearby dilapidated buildings, so they decide to climb the ruins. Despite Brenda's best efforts, 2 more cranks still chase after them. While running away, unfortunately, Brenda hits the window of a building and is ready to fall, and every moment the cracks in the glass increase. With pursuer cranks attack, the glass is about to break, but Thomas grabs her hand to stop her from falling. They continue on their way, but unfortunately, she has been bitten, and her infection is a big concern. Together, they press on, eventually coming upon additional survivors. On their way to what seems to be a party, they stop. Blondie, the event host, informs the two that they must sip his cocktail to enter. They do it. Thomas has a near-death experience and starts seeing strange things in a matter of seconds. He walks around the room before collapsing to the floor and passing out. When he gets up, he sees Brenda, who is also hanging out, and tempts Thomas to kiss her. Then he imagines Teresa's face, so he refuses to continue, and Brenda leaves him alone. Thomas falls to the ground and faints from the intensity of hallucinations and bad mood. He sees things in his dreams. He is forced to do something because he can no longer see the kids die, and he informs Teresa about this. Suddenly, he wakes up, and it turns out that Jorge and the others have found them. Blondie, whose name is Marcos, is interrogated by Jorge to reveal the whereabouts of the Right Arm group. When pressed, he finally reveals they have a mountain base. However, they are constantly moving, and it is impossible to reach them because the distance is too far. Jorge gets his car and goes to the mountain road with the others. On the way along a tunnel, they are stopped by the cars that crashed, and suddenly, moments later, they are shot at. Thomas and Jorge are preparing to explode a bomb, and suddenly, 2 girls stop them. Shortly after, it turns out that they are Eris's friends and have known him since they were in the maze. They take the group to a makeshift camp of survivors of the Right Arm group, where they are met by Vince, the group's current leader. Brenda's bad mood makes them find out about her infection, and Vince immediately plans to kill her, and Thomas's insistence does not deter him. Meanwhile, Mary, the right-hand army doctor, appears and stops him, claiming that Thomas can heal her. She reveals that she knows Thomas and says that since he didn't want to see his friend killed, he agreed to cooperate with her, so he gave her all the coordinates and locations of Wicked's experiments. In fact, Thomas is their source, and they owe all the army achievements to him, and then his friends realize his good nature. While Teresa secretly watches them, Mary tells Thomas that the presence of enzymes in his blood can act as an antiviral and lead to a person's recovery. However, a way to produce these enzymes has not yet been discovered. She explains that this will be a temporary treatment for her. She informs Thomas that the amount of treatment Brenda will need to survive will increase every few months. Immediately after the injection, Brenda's body reacts and calms down. Before leaving the tent, Thomas picks up the thing that fell out of her pocket, which Brenda puts them in danger for taking. She wakes up and says that it was a souvenir from her brother George, who was separated from him when she was a child, and now she doesn't know where he is. She says that he reminds her of his brother, and then Thomas shows her the memento he got from Chuck and says that he lost his life to save him, and they both get sad. He leaves her alone for some rest, and when he comes out, Jorge hugs him and believes he now owes him. Next to Minho, Frypan and Newt, Thomas remembers the friends they have lost. He sees Teresa standing on a hill and staring at the horizon. He joins her, and during Teresa's discussion about her mother and seeing her suffering over her loss, she is visibly saddened. She asks him to understand that her goal is to save billions of people, but Thomas does not understand what she is talking about. At this moment, Wicked Army helicopters arrive, and it turns out that Teresa informed them. Thomas tries to immediately inform the group of this betrayal. However, helicopters set the camp on fire. The troops descend to the ground and start firing shock shots. Vince and the others' efforts to counter the attack are futile. Just when Vince is preparing the shooting machine to confront the enemy, one of the soldiers throws a stun grenade, and everyone is disabled by it. Jorge and Brenda ask Thomas, hiding, to use this opportunity to run away with them, but he says he cannot leave his friends. After they leave, Thomas is determined to find a solution to save the group from this catastrophe. He suddenly notices an explosive bomb next to him. Johnson lines up all the captives on their knees, and at this moment, Thomas shows himself and is placed next to the others. With the conditions ready, Johnson wants Ava to land. She lands on a big ship and gets out of the ship with the escort of her special agents. She orders all the kids to be taken. Upon seeing Teresa, Minho and Newt become aware of her betrayal and watch her as she apologizes, believing it is the only way to find a cure. Mary then appears, and on Ava's orders, Johnson immediately murders her. Thomas pulls out the bomb and threatens them to stop, or he will detonate it. Ava and Teresa plan to dissuade him. Teresa promises them their place will be safe, but Thomas never trusts her. His friends join him, who are all ready to die. Just as he is about to pull the trigger, Jorge and Brenda show up to save them and turn the tide by attacking a helicopter. As the fight begins, Thomas throws explosives at the soldiers, and moments later, Johnson is determined to kill him this time. Brenda targets and stops him, and on the other hand, Vince, with a shooting machine that is ready to fire, volleys the attackers with strength. They retreat, but in the meantime, they disable Minho with a stun shot and take him with them. Thomas tries to save him, but his friends stop him because it's too late. Ava and all her soldiers are forced to leave with this defeat and escape with their ship. Tomorrow morning comes, and the destruction is so catastrophic that many are in disbelief about what happened. Vince claims he plans to bring the kids to the shelter so they can start over with the resources they have. Thomas, however, insists that he will stay to fight and refuses to leave. He is boldly adamant that he will not allow Minho to be kidnapped and abused. Yet Newt and Jorge believe that saving him is impossible. Thomas declares with an epic speech that he cannot leave his friend alone, and this time, he plans to stop all their goals and organizations by killing Ava. This speech influences Vincent and the others to join him, and the movie ends with this question.
So what's your plan?
Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.